Hello everybody, welcome to That's Football. I'm Mark Goldbridge and today we're looking at how Mikel Arteta makes Arsenal Premier League champions this season. Well, one way would be for Manchester City to get 115 charges found guilty and be relegated by Christmas. But in reality, how do Arsenal topple Manchester City across a 38 Premier League season? They've tried twice now. 2 seasons ago, they caught everybody by surprise, but they fell away in the last 2 months. Last season, I think one thing you can't level at Arsenal is consistency. And we're going to look at their strengths, their weaknesses, their signings, and their improvements required to win the league this season. But one of their weaknesses cannot be consistency. If there's one thing Arsenal did last season is they stayed the race to the very end. Liverpool were in it, they did fall away in Klopp's final season. But Arsenal, 89 points to 91 to Manchester City. That title race may have been predictable, but it did go to the final day of this season. So consistency and staying the race shouldn't be something that Arsenal lose this season. So let's have a look at improvements. Let's have a look at where Arsenal did well, and let's have a look at what their signings have been in this summer transfer window so far. Defensively, Arsenal are the best side in the Premier League. They only conceded 29 goals last season. The only team to go under 30 goals conceded across the season. In fact, only Arsenal and Man City were the only 2 teams to go under 40 goals conceded. And as I said, Arsenal got down to 29. So when Arsenal are in this season, you would expect that defensive solidity to continue again. And look at the transfer window. Calafiori comes in and strengthens them on that left-hand side. And of course, like a new signing, Jurrien Timber comes back, missed most of last season injured. Adding into that, you've got the likes of Saliba, Ben White, Gabriel, and Arsenal should at least maintain their status as the best defensive side in the Premier League. And as we know, strong defences win more games. So Arteta will be looking to build on that platform, which does allow Arsenal to be consistent and win more games. Because I think when you move into the midfield, at the time of this video, maybe Arsenal have signed them, but I really do like the idea of Merino coming in from Spain, because I think that one of the areas I want to talk about Arsenal where I think there are weaknesses is the De Bruyne factor. Last season, Manchester City won the league. Last season, Manchester City didn't have Kevin De Bruyne for the first half of that season. I think from Arsenal's point of view, you take a Declan Rice out that side for half a season, you take a Saka out that team for half a season, and I think Arsenal are going to struggle. And we've spoken about this over the years. If anybody wants to compete with Manchester City, the juggernaut that is Manchester City, then it's not just about having a good first 11. It's about having a good 18 that you can mix and match, not just for injury, but rotation for fitness as well. How many times across a season will Pep Guardiola leave a Phil Foden out or a Haaland out? And you'll go, why are they on the bench? Have they got a knock? No, he's just rotating his team because he knows how to do that and time it to perfection across a 9-month season. And that is something that Arsenal need to work on. So bringing someone like Moreno in just gives them more options in that midfield and potentially covers up the issue if they did lose a Declan Rice for a month or 2. Goals as well for Arsenal, I think, are an area where I'm very surprised they haven't gone into the transfer market. And for me, this would be the area where I look at Arsenal and go, that's the most obvious area you need to improve on this summer transfer window. There is definitely a need to build out a squad. I think defensively, as we said, they're very strong. They've got a lot of options in there now with Calafiori, Timber, Saliba, Gabriel, White, and others. In the midfield, it's not looking too bad either. But I think goals are where I'm very surprised Arsenal haven't made a move for a Solanke, an Ivan Toney. Some sort of striker that comes in that maybe doesn't start, but certainly gives you that out-and-out number 9 goal-scoring ability. I mean, if money's no option, Ollie Watkins, Alexander Isak would be absolutely perfect for what Arsenal need up front. Having said that, when you look at last season, Arsenal's goal-scoring stats 96 goals for Manchester City, 91 goals for Arsenal, the only two teams in the Premier League to go over 90 goals. So in some ways you say, well, do Arsenal need to improve on goal scorers when they are already the second and not far off Manchester City? But I would say yes. Because if you add in a prolific goal scorer to that, you'll score more goals than Man City and you'll probably have more points. We're talking about fine margins here. We're talking about how Arsenal go from just second to first. And I believe that Havertz, whilst he's useful, I think he got 13 goals last season, you need somebody who's hitting 20. Not one Arsenal player hit 20 goals last season. You've got Saka with 16, Havertz with 13, Trossard with a very impressive 12, Odegaard with 8. Now, obviously, we've heard Arteta is already talking up Jesus, who has that experience at Man City and is no doubt a good player. But is he consistent in front of goal? And is he consistent with fitness? And I just think when I look at that Arsenal side, yes, that De Bruyne factor is important in the squad. Whereas if you lose a Saka or you lose a Rice, can you maintain your form? And I don't think Arsenal are far off with the consistency they have across their defence and their team. You know, that is not something they have an issue with. But goals in games where it's a little bit tight, I do think that's something. And I don't think Arsenal really have highlighted or found that solution. However, how do they win the league? How does Arteta do it without solving that problem? Because I think it's abundantly clear Arsenal don't concede many goals. They score a lot of goals. They get a lot of points, but they don't win titles. And the cold, harsh fact is we're living through a domination that may or may not be built on unsolid foundation. If Man City get found guilty, Arsenal would have every right to look over the last 2 years and go, we should have won those titles. I genuinely believe if you take Man City out of this league, Arsenal win titles. But Man City are in this league, and you have to fight what's in front of you until someone takes that away or it falls away. I think a striker is what Arsenal need. I think a striker is what Arsenal fans know they need. But is a striker what they're going to get? And if they're not going to get one, if they're not going to have that guy who can score them 20 goals, then Jesus has got to stay fit for a lot of this season. And Havertz has got to stay fit for a lot of this season. And Arsenal need to get a lot more goals, again, out of Odegaard, Saka, Martinelli and Trossard to make up for the fact that they don't have that 20-goal-a-season player. What do I think about Arsenal? I think they will be there. I think they will be very, very close to Manchester City. And if the trajectory is correct, they could do it this year. But if they don't do it, I don't think it will be about inconsistency. I don't think it will be about squad. I don't think it will be about defence. I think it will come down to, can they score goals, more goals than Man City? They concede less. They're very close in points, but it's goals scored. Can they do enough of that? Get your comments in below. What are your thoughts on Arsenal and the title? What are your thoughts on what Arsenal are missing? Or are Manchester City just untoppable? Thanks for watching. Smash a like on the video. I'll speak to you on the next one.